Hello, everyone, and welcome to day three, part three of our Event Builder series. I am your host, Steve McGillivray. I work in the ASU Office of University Events and Protocol. And again, this is part three of our Masterclass series. In the Masterclass, we are taking a deep dive into the registration module of Stova. This deep dive allows us to spend a lot more time on the different features that are in registration, and there are a lot. So, just to remind you that we are using this event as our use case for what we're building and have been building for the last two classes. So, we're planning a multi day, multi session conference to a worldwide audience. And we are taking all the information for attendees to the conference, people exhibiting at the trade show that we'll have at the conference, and sponsors and such. Now, all these folks have to pay some fees, but we'll also be offering some discounts. And that is what we will be covering today, how to set up fees and payments for your site. So I just got distracted by something that just popped up. So how to set up fees and payments, how to set the fees for different parts of the system, how to set up the payment methods that you're allowing people to use to pay those fees, and how to set up discounts. We'll also spend a lot of time on how to customize the look and feel of your registration site. And we will touch base. I don't know if we're going to demo many of them, but we'll definitely touch base with some of the advanced settings available to you to use in a registration, in the registration, advanced settings of your registration is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Now, before we get started, there's always a little bit of housekeeping. First off, this session is being recorded. And after the session's over and Zoom does its processing, we will share that link with you. We usually get an email out tomorrow with a link to the video. Also, just wanted to kind of a blanket warning every time we do these webinars. We have been with this company so long, it's gone by a couple of names. Stova is how it's referred to now, but before Stova, it was called Eventry. And before Eventry, if you've been around here as long as I have, it was called eTouches. And the reason I mention that is because you may still bump into those other company names, either as we're going through today or in documentation. But not to worry, it's still the same system. They didn't change the technology. It's just the name of the company has changed over the years. So, also want to say that as we go through, if I'm going too fast or you have a question, feel free to either post it in the chat or just unmute your microphone and ask. If you want to do it right when I'm doing that section, that's fine. But we will have time at the end for questions about anything I've shown today or anything Stova related. So, having said that, let's dive in because we do have a lot to cover. Okay, so I'm going to log into my Stova account. I've gone to our Stova support site, clicking that button and entering my ASU Right ID. Now, I've been in here before, so I didn't see the ASU single sign-on page. But to find my event I'm working on, I have to click on my team folder. And yes, it's at that level. And if you weren't around previously, a little tip here is when you're on this level, if you want to get into registration settings faster, you can right click on the name and you get a little contextual menu here. If you just click on the name, you'll be taken right to the overview page. But I want to skip that and go right into registration settings. So previously on Masterclass, we cloned an ASU template to create this registration site. We have already set up dates and times in the basic information. We have created a number of categories for all of our guests. We've also taken care of the attendee info questions. So now we want to worry and focus on fees and payments. So first off, let's set some of these fees. Now you can set fees on either categories or sessions or options and merchandise under the agenda options section. So category fees are for the entire event or for that category as they're coming in. That's the first fee that's applied. And then if you have sessions, say you have pre-conference events or just special sessions throughout your event that require them to pay, that's when you can set a fee for a session. And if you're selling merchandise, you can do that through options. So down here, again on standard fees, it defaults to show me specific fees for categories. That's where I am right now. I'm under standard fees. But here are the other things that how I can view these fees. It gets a little messy when you go to everything. So I'm going to just go step by step. So it's showing me my categories. It's also showing me my subcategories. So for general admission, this will be $100. The exhibitors, the vendor is for the company. It's how I'm using that. So the exhibitor is the exhibitor rep, is how I'm using that here in my event. So under sponsors, I'm not going to put a fee for the sponsors category. I'm going to put the sponsorship level fees in the subcategory that folks are going to select. And bronze. Okay. And my staff do not have to pay any fees if they register here, so that's going to leave that blank. So having set those fees, I'm going to hit save and stay. And there they are. Okay. Next, let's set some fees for some of our sessions. We have some special interest sessions, engagement sessions, if you would. One thing we have is a trip to Topgolf here, and now you'll notice all my sessions are listed here, and it has an extra feature, an extra link called specify price by category. If I set the price here at this level, this will be applied to everyone who registers for that session. But if I wanted to designate different prices for different categories, there we go, then I can click that link and it exposes all the categories under that session, and I can set special pricing here. Now, when you do this in setting pricing, just so you know, like I had in sponsors and subcategories, same thing applies here, is the way it works is if I set a price at the top level and either a session or a subcategory, it becomes cumulative, okay? All the fees are being added for the selections. Just be aware of that because that can trip some people up. For my purpose, I just want one fee for that trip, and it's going to be that. Can save and stay before I move to the next screen. And I am trying to sell some merchandise, so I'm going to go to options. And here's the all the options I have. Again, I can have different prices for different categories. If you remember, these are individual selections here, and this Expo guide is a quantity field. So it was a multi-select on the option, so they just pick one option. But I have to set the price for everybody. Everybody's going to pay $15. And the Expo guide is just $5 for everybody. Again, save and stay. Okay, so now I've set my pricing. Now, how do we take the money? I'm going to go over to payment settings. And at the top here, I can select and add as many payment methods as I want to either allow my attendees to use or that they can use and I can use. I'm going to add a payment method. Now for credit cards, you want to use the quick pay payment method. That's the processor we use at ASU. Once you've selected that method, then you get a refresh of the screen, and now it's showing a list of all the quick pay accounts that are available currently in the system. And if you haven't gotten a quick pay account for your fees, you could do that. We'll share the link to how to request one of those. You send the request to ASU Merchant Services through a ServiceNow form. They create the account, contact us that the account's ready for programming. We program it and test it in Stova, and then we let you know that it's ready to use. And when it's ready to use, it'll show up on this list. Now, this list is sorted not alphabetically, but chronologically by when it was created. So if you have a new QuickPay account, it's going to be close to the bottom of the list. Nothing I can do about that. Okay, so let me just find one of my accounts here. There we go. And next, what I want to do is go down here under the billing information. By default, these fields, these billing fields are turned on, and these fields would appear on the payment page. But for QuickPay, you should not display these fields at all. What's going to happen in this process of registration is that when your registrant hits the payment page and hits QuickPay and says make payment, they will be taken from the Stova registration site to the QuickPay portal, which is where they will enter their billing information and make the actual payment transaction. After that transaction is successful, QuickPay returns them to the Stova registration site with a message that says, you did it, you're good to go, and marks them in the system as paid. These billing fields in Stova can interfere with that process, especially for international audiences. So our recommendation is just to turn those fields off. You don't need them here. Okay? Now, if you want to control visibility for audiences, you can do that just like any place else in Stova. There are visibility settings, some basic ones. If you only want a payment method to be viewed by certain categories, for example, or public versus admin users, again, you're the admin user, the public would be your attendees. Okay. You can also add a charge if you want to add the credit card fee here. We don't recommend this. We suggest you just make sure your fee is high enough to cover any potential charges. Again, Stova doesn't charge you for anything, but ASU does charge you for transaction fees for using credit cards. Those still apply, but those are not us. So this is ready to go, and just hit save and exit to close the screen and save your changes. There we go. There is the first payment method. Now a note is I am in pre-event for this still. I'm still testing and setting up, and when I'm ready to test this site, I will not be able to select QuickPay during my test process and complete the registration. Unless you want to use a real credit card, which I do not advise. And even though you will see some test credit cards, in fact, I think I can I show you that in pre-event? On the payment page? Yeah. Even though while you're in pre-event, you'll see these test credit cards, they don't work with QuickPay, with the QuickPay system. So again, we've already programmed and tested QuickPay. We know your account works. That's not the problem. The problem is you want a way to submit a registration through the whole process so you see the confirmation emails and make sure they can get through to the end. So to do that, we suggest you add one more payment method, at least during testing, something that's non-credit card. Now your choices are, you've got check here, you've got invoice, pay on door is another. Some people use wire transfer. I like to usually go for invoice. And just again, for it's my testing, I don't need to see any of those fields. But if you would like to offer your attendees alternate ways of paying, you can do that, such as invoice. And you may want to have those fields enabled. That is fine. So save and exit. So now I'm ready for testing. When my testing is complete, I will make a decision before I go live. Do I want to allow people to see this invoice option? If I do not, I will come back here and I will turn off visible and just save it for myself. So I may have clients who would like an invoice, or I want to be ready for that contingency. So I'll leave this live so that I can use it. Or I could just delete it, so it's no longer a problem or no longer seen by anybody. Okay. I don't have to. I'm going to hit save and stay there. Now, one other thing is that our audiences do not know what QuickPay is. So we suggest putting a little text on the payment page to explain what QuickPay is for and what's going to happen when they click the payment button, just so they're not alarmed or disturbed by seeing new web pages that aren't where they thought they were supposed to be. So we have a little, I have a little text that I use. Oop. Yeah, there we go. I have a little utility that pastes this kind of text for me. And this is what the text says, right? If you're going to pay by credit card, it's going to be called Quick Pay, and this is how you do it. And this is going to happen to you after you click the payment button. This text is available on our support site under the Quick Pay setup pages. You can just copy and paste it from there if you like. But again, just a little velvet glove treatment for folks. And if you do offer other payment methods, then edit this text or edit your text so it says what you expect them to do for the different payment methods. Okay? Common sense, I hope. So that's all set up there. Now, just because I pasted that there doesn't mean it was saved to this page. I again have to hit save and stay. Okay. So there are lots of ways of giving discounts to your attendees. And one of the most requested and I think easiest to apply is the early bird special. Now, you don't go to discount codes or discount rules. You actually set the early bird special under standard fees. And that's what this price point section is for. Here, you would set the date that the fees will change. So click Add New Price Point, and then hit the set a time and date. Let's see, I am in May of 2024. We'll give them, let's say March 1st. If you don't set a time value, the system will assume you mean midnight the morning of this date, just FYI. So maybe we're just going to say end of business day there, and I'm going to hit save and stay. Now what's happened is a new column has been added to my fees down here where I can add what that price is going to be for the discount. So for my general admission, it'll go down to that. For exhibitors, it's going to go down to that. Okay, I'm not going to change anybody else. Nobody's going to get a discount off of the sponsorship levels. So if they're blank, whatever value is in that far right field will apply. Now you could also use this feature if you have a late fee. Again, just set the date or date and time that the fee will change. You'll get another column and you can adjust accordingly. For a late fee then, the full price would be probably the most expensive level, and then the price for the registration without the late fee would be the next column. And if you're doing an early bird, etc., etc. And yes, this column does appear under sessions only and options. I'm not going to give people discounts for this example for that. Okay, now there is another way of providing discounts, and that is the discount code. This allows you to create different kinds of discounts, gives you a code for those, and you then pass those codes on to your attendees, whoever you want to use the merge codes. I'm not a big fan of, not merge codes, discount codes. I'm not a big fan of discount codes myself, and I'll chat a bit about why in a minute. I can do so much with categories and those standard fee settings and early bird specials, and I just think less thinking is better for everyone. But I know a lot of units who do like to use discount codes, so I'll show you how to create them. On the discount codes page, just click Add Discount Code. Okay, and just give it a name. Let's say 10 off is my code. Okay, now down here under settings, you decide what kind of a discount you're giving. Are you giving a specific price for each item? So it's just a hard number. Or are you taking a certain percentage off of a number? Or are you giving a certain dollar amount, a fixed dollar amount off. Whichever one you select will have some changes happen right below for setting those prices. So this is for the specific prices, a percentage here, and then you can decide, what am I applying that percentage to? Is it just the categories? Is it session fees? Is it options, or all the above? Fixed discount, same thing. How much off am I taking off of those things? I'm going to go for the percentage. Again, I've set this for, I called it 10 off for a reason. 10% off, and it's only going to be off of the category fees in my use case. Now down here are some other options for discount codes. You can set a limit to how many people can use the discount codes. You can set a limit to the dates the discount is available. So a start time and date and an end date and time. You can also only apply the discount if you reach so many people in the group, or it can only be used so many times in a group, and we are using group registrations in this example. Again, that's the group booking feature. You can also limit the discount by categories. I'm not sure why it would be public users and admin users, but they're there if you want to. And again, in Stova, any place you have fields that are going to stop someone from doing something, registering or filling out a field or selecting a session or using a discount, there will be a field so you can put a message to let people know, this discount is no longer available. Okay? You can also decide if this discount is used for everyone in the group, and if it is it just automatically applied. And you can create alternative codes. So it is the same discount for everyone, but you can give it different code names. Remember up here, this is the code name, 10 off. So if I wanted to call it something else for a different constituency, just for tracking purposes, I could do that. It's still the same discount, and it will still be recorded in reporting. Okay? So I'm just going to hit save and exit, having set this up the way I would like. Now, a couple of things have happened. Back on my new registration page, I'm just going to look at pre-event. But this has happened. So as soon as I make a discount code, this field, ID code, gets created. What's an ID code? Well, it's what Stova, somebody in Stova calls a discount code. Okay, great. So I'm not crazy about that. But that I can fix. I can rename terms in the system, and we will be covering that later in the day. But this also happened. This is where people have to enter that discount code. They cannot enter a discount code once they get inside their registration site. It has to be done at the front end here on new registration. So I'm not a big fan of that. It means you have to get the code to people before they land on this page. It also gives everybody else who's registering the notion that, oh yeah, you are, if I call this discount code, somebody's getting a deal, and I'm not. And I'm not crazy about that either. But some people, like I say, some units like discount codes, so that is how you create them. There's no way of getting rid of this field unless you get rid of the discount codes. Okay? All right, so that is discount codes. The next thing I just want to touch base on, dealing with fees and payments, are the invoices. The system does generate an invoice, a default design for anyone who registers. I don't have any sample settings in here at the moment. But if you don't like the look of that invoice, you can design your own. And to do that, you would go to the Invoice Settings tab. Okay, and down at the bottom, you can enable the Invoice Designer. Just select that, and before you launch the Invoice Designer, you have to save your work. And now you can launch the Invoice Designer, and this is what the designed invoice will look like. Oh, and by the way, in Stova, the protocol is if people owe you money, then it's an invoice, and if they've paid you, it's a receipt. It's the same form. There'll just be a different word at the top that the system puts there. But if you see, you'll see merge codes when you talk about event emails. You'll see merge codes for an invoice button so people can get there and download it. Invoice/receipt, it's the same form. Okay. So some things to be aware of. So invoice settings, I would click that to be able to pick your paper size. Being an international company, they've picked metric first, but you can change that to American. You've got in the background here 3 sections: the invoice header, the invoice body, and the invoice footer. And to adjust the size of the header or footer section in pixels, you can adjust that there. I usually just go for the defaults. And if you're afraid you're going to have multiple pages on your invoice, you can have the system show page numbers on the invoice. Your call on that, but that's where you would set it. So there are a few ways to add content here. It defaults to adding the Stova logo, and to move something, you just click on it and move it. If you do resize something, you would hold your mouse over one of those little tool handles of the box after you've clicked. And then as you can see, you can either edit what's inside that box or you can delete the box entirely. Okay. What you're seeing already are some, as I said, pre-programmed stuff here for you to start with. Let's see, what do they call this? I'm going to change that box. What is this feature called? Yeah, the item breakdown. So this is automatically pulling any charges that they've accumulated, categories, sessions, merchandise, and they're going to line item those features here. And then if they're using QuickPay, they'll be marked as how much they paid. If they're using invoice, how much they owe. Okay, I'm going to hit save and stay before I go. Down here, the invoice footer, this is pulling some fields that we already saw, terms and conditions. There were other fields we could populate. This one is showing policies and terms. This one is showing there was a payment instructions field that we could have pre-populated more policies and terms. And what does it show? I guess down here, those were the different fields under payment settings, underneath where we made the payment methods. Okay, so if you need to provide some instructions on the invoice or receipt, that's how you can do it. Okay, again, getting back to how to add text here, click the add content to invoice. And here are your choices. If you want to add a new logo, this will open it up into the image database where you can upload your own image or find your own logos. Here, I would want to find it from the image database, select image, College of Really Cool Ideas. Let's see what I got here. Got that one and that one. Let's go big. That'll do. Okay. So that's big. And again, to resize. Now, there is no way to constrain this. Like some people could use their keyboards to constrain. This just goes by sight. Unfortunately, there's just no way to do that. So I'm going to keep that. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, there's my logo. Now, before I leave and add another text box, I'm going to hit that save button, because if I don't, it's going to put it right back to how it was when it pasted it in the first place. If I want to pull in information about the event or anything about the attendee, I can find those fields here. And I get the field list here. Okay, attendee information, billing information. If I enabled the billing, this is pulling from the payment method, or event information. Let's just put the event name. And if I want to make a multi-line on the same text blocks, let's add the start date. And editing, I believe, is for just a little basic formatting. And because I know I have a long name, I'm just going to expand that container box. If I didn't, it would actually crop that image. Okay, so you get the idea. You can put your dates here, you can put the usernames, that kind of thing. So that is the invoice designer. If you're curious on what the default invoice looks like, I would suggest you just go to the registrant list where you have any of your attendees, and there's a way to generate an invoice from within the attendee profile, and that will give you a look at what the default looks like, or what your own designed invoice looks like. Okay? All right, so that's our fees and payment section. Are there any questions here about anything we've covered? Payment methods, setting fees, discount codes. In fact, let me go back and show you those fields that this thing was referring to. Yeah, down here are those fields that will automatically appear on the invoice if you want them to. Okay, not seeing anything in the chat and not seeing anyone unmute their microphone. Let us move on to look and feel. So if I just click on look and feel, it takes me automatically to the theme editor, and this is for colors and fonts and that kind of thing. But actually, I want to start with this thing called headers and footers. So you can customize headers and footers for putting information or graphics either on the entire site or on specific pages. What you're seeing here are what comes with our template. We have a global header, and so this will appear on every page unless there is a page-specific header listed here. You can only have one, and a page-specific overrides the global. Now the global is pretty basic in our template. If I go into that, I just click edit. It's telling me where things are appearing. It's telling me what this is. I've put a note to myself what's in this header, but here's the content section here, and it's a HTML field. Click on that editor button, and this is all I'm providing, just the event name highlighted, and this will appear on every page unless there's an override. Okay. Down here, you will see that you can have control on the visibility of these headers. So if you need to put some text, say, for one of your categories, say I have some special instructions for the exhibitors or for the sponsors, this is one way I can put text on a page and only they can see it by controlling this visibility. Again, public users, that's your attendees. Admin users are you. New registrants, first time a person is in your registration site, modifying registrants. If you're allowing them to go back into the registrations, you can have a special message for them as well. All attendee categories, if you want to see specific categories, just uncheck a box, and then those options will be exposed. Okay. Registration statuses, really haven't talked about statuses, but everyone who submits a registration is automatically called a confirmed registration. If they have been put on a wait list by the waitlist feature, they'd be marked as waitlisted. If they have registered and then decide they're not coming, you can cancel them, or they can cancel themselves. If you're allowing them, they'll be marked as canceled. And then if you're using the check-in features, or you are just marking people manually having attended the event, they'll be marked as attended after they've checked in to the event. So there's some statuses you can use, but we generally just keep it all visible here. Again, we don't really use the travel system in Stova, and you have visibility based on discount codes. Okay. I'm not going to change this one, but what I'm going to do is I want to create a header for my new registration page. I would like the graphic I'm using in my marketing materials to show up on that page, just a visual confirmation that the person is in the right place. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone the global header to start with. And where it says appears on, These are all the pages that a header could appear on. I'm not going to go through them all here, but you can figure them out. I'm looking for a new registration page. Lovely. Again, I want a header, but just so you know, so you have different types here. You can put things in a left or right sidebar. You can also put things in a footer. I'm sticking to header. And just getting rid of that text. So to add my header graphic here, I'm going to go into the HTML. I'd like that graphic to appear at the top. I'm just going to get rid of this formatting. It shouldn't interfere, but just in case. And so in the toolbar, I'm looking for the image editor, and then I browse the server. That will access the image database, and I go into my team folder. Now I already have a header here. So I'm just going to click that. Always good to put some alt text. For the screen readers. Okay, it's telling me what the graphic size is. If I wanted to resize it, I could. I'm just going to leave this as is. And I'm going to center that, hit OK. And there is my image. Update. There is the HTML of where it is. Lovely. And it's for everybody. That's all I have to do. And to see that, I can go back to preview event. So here is the new registration page without my header. Refresh. There it is with my header graphic. Okay. By the way, the same as the header here is appearing inside this box. If you do add a footer, it's going to appear at the bottom here, but inside this white box, nothing outside of the box. Okay, this is usually where people get a little confused if they go into somebody else's event and there's some text on a site and it's like, where is that text coming from? This is one of the places it could be programmed is here on a page header or footer. The other place it could be an attendee info question that somebody is using just the header, no input, and designated for a certain page. So those are the two places it could be. So now let's go into theme editor. If you have cloned our template, we go to a default theme, and we have provided ASU users these pre-programmed themes. They already have ASU branding choices in the fonts and the colors, and a background image of some type. You'll see the list by clicking here under Your Themes. And the only difference is the background image. All the fonts, all the colors, schemes are the same in each of these themes. Okay, this is a great place to start. If you made a mistake and clicked the big blue button, but you want to get the ASU branding, you can go into the theme editor of your event and then click on Your Themes and pick one of the ASU themes, and that will be converted to the ASU branding. These other things up top are a few controls and some Stova branded color schemes. You know, you're free to use those if you would don't need the ASU branding or prefer not to have the ASU branding. But that's all under themes here. Now, when you make a change anywhere in this customize bar on the right, you need to hit the save button. I haven't made any changes, but just to show you. So if I wanted to go to, say, the old main theme, right, I could do that. Now I would hit the save button. Okay. So if you want to change the background, that's fine. Just still pick a theme as your starter. And first, let's start with a way to change this logo. That would be the next section down is header logo. Now, do not ever in Stova use a drag and drop feature where you don't know where it's going. You don't know where that file is going to be delivered. Do not use that, okay? It could go to a place that gets cleaned out once in a while, cached out, and then you would lose your image and get a broken image link showing up where the graphic is supposed to be. Okay, very important that what you do is you use any feature where you can see where your file is going. For us, that's here. Select image from your database. Maybe that's what confuses people. Is like, well, I haven't put an image in my database yet. Well, this is how you're going to do it. What's nice about this part of the Stova system is this is actually allowing you to add and edit things in the images database. It's the only place where users are allowed to do that. So you always want to add things to your unit folder, but you need to be inside the unit folder first. So click on that. Now I'm in my unit folder. Okay. And now I can drag and drop things into this area. I can even drag and drop folders. Let's do that. Let me go to, got multiple screens here. Not that, and not that. Go into my trainings. Let's just create. All right, there is my folder. And if it's an empty folder from my desktop to over here, let go. And there is my folder. Lovely. If I want to get rid of that folder, I can click the trash can. If I need to edit the name of the folder, I can click edit here. Okay, lovely. So let's add my graphics to this. I'm going to go into that folder, go back to my desktop. And I'm going to select all the images that I need to use for my demonstration. I'm just going to click, drag, and drop them over here. Okay, now we go back to Stova. So right now, I could edit these graphics if I need to resize them. I can do that here while I'm importing. As a general rule, I recommend that you size your graphics before you drag and drop them into Stova, but I know, things happen. But so you can edit them now using this process after they've gone into the images database. It's saying all these were uploaded successfully, 0 problems, lovely. I'm just going to close this window. But if I want to edit them, I can go in to them by clicking the edit icon next to their name. Now I can change their name. I can move what folder they're in. As long as it's in the unit folder, I'm fine. But I can also resize and crop this image if I want. Here I can constrain proportions, lovely. I think I'll get that ready for my email and update the image. Now once I've done that, it's going to give me a warning that once I do this, the old image is gone and you have this new image. Okay. Now after I've done that, it's kicked me back out to the top level of this. I can go back inside. All right, so I want that logo image. I think that was in my Stova samples. And it's this one. And so that's how you upload your images and change the logo in the theme editor. Okay, and I've made changes. I'm going to hit save, make sure those changes are saved. So drag and drop down here into your database folders. Don't use these. That is your pro tip of the day. Next, I want to change this background image. To do that, I go into the background section. And here are your options. You can just remove the file and have it as just a blank color or a basic color. After you've removed the file, you can pick the color from here, or you can enter, let's do that, just remove the file. Let's add our ASU branding color. Got that a note somewhere. I do not have these memorized. I like to hit tab, hit choose. Okay, there's my ASU color. I could also add a gradient. Okay, but what I want to do is put an image back on here. To do that, I click choose image. Different way into my image database or unit folder in the image database. I saved it to my Stova sample, and here's my background image. And again, made changes. There we go. All right. So, I mean, you should be familiar with this. I didn't go through it, but you see you have the upload images here. Be inside the folder you want to save things, hit the upload image, find it, upload it, edit if you need to. It's the same process that we've seen in other parts of the system, okay? Let me see. All right, so that's changing your header logo, changing your background image. Oh, by the way, in this theme editor preview window, you can navigate to other pages to see what they look like. You just do that over here where it says page. So you can pick any of these to see what those pages look like. It's sort of a pre-preview of your event, and you can look at things based on categories too. It's, like I say, it's very similar to preview event. The reason I mention it is because there are other things you can edit here if you would like to. You can get into the nitty-gritty of colors and fonts for different sections, different elements of the web page if you want to. I don't recommend it because that way could lead madness if you don't know what you're doing, but you can. I'm just showing you how to do it. And the easiest way to do it is by going to the page you're looking to change the element of. And as you see, as I move my mouse around this page, over on the right, this related variables shows up. If I just tried to scroll through here, it's a very, very long list of variables. And I don't know if this is not HTML, CSS that I'm familiar with. I don't know what this technology is, but this is how you change fonts, sizes, colors. To filter that to what it is you want to you're seeing here on the screen, look for that related variables and click on it, and then the system will show you, oh, that's these fields here you're talking about. You can change them here. Okay. Again, then now you can go to a different page. Right. Generally, fields or elements are elements. Yeah. I'm not going to go any further than this because it's, like I say, it just leads to madness. But that is how you can make changes to the to those systems. To close it, there's a little X there to get out of the related variables section. Ooh, that's my scroll was very close to it. Now I'm back to just colors and fonts. Lastly, this custom code. So this is doing some ASU branded coding in the back end. If you need to add other codes, you can. This might be a place where you would put Google Analytics links. Sometimes some how-tos tell you this is where you would put the pixel. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just saying this is where they might direct you. If they're talking about head codes, this is where you would find that. But if you don't need to worry about that, don't worry about that. All right, gonna save my changes. And that is the theme editor. Okay, we are just blasting through this stuff. Any questions about theme editor or headers and footers? Again, like anything else in Stova, you can make these changes even after your site's gone live. If you get lost in the changes, you can always go back to the theme section and select a different theme, and it will refresh everything for you. And as I said, you can change these themes even on older events. If you are using a really old event, you might not even be in theme editor. In a really old event, if you held your mouse over look and feel, you would see 4 different tabs: headers and footers, an event logo, and themes, and I forget what the 4th one is. But if you see that, that is a really old event registration, and I would not recommend using that any longer. I would suggest it's time to clone our latest template and start fresh. But if you, for some reason, you really need to use that registration site, you can convert old sites to theme editor. I'm not going to go through it here because I don't have a test site to show you, but there is a step-by-step guide on our support page. There's basically a feature under advanced settings that you turn on theme editor for those older older registration sites. So I haven't seen that in a long time, but it could still happen. Okay, seeing nothing in the chat and hearing nothing coming through the audio, and my backup is not waving at me frantically as I'm missing something. Let's move on to some of these advanced settings. Some I just want to point out to you that that they're turned on and why they're turned on, and others we actually want to show you how to use them. So I'm on advanced settings, general settings. The advanced settings is basically the kitchen sink of settings for your registration site. And some of these are turned on the template by default. We just thought this was the easiest thing to do. One of them turned on by default is the disable welcome page feature. Well, what's the welcome page? If you remember, you may have seen the term welcome page on the attendee info section because there are some fields on the welcome page. And why did we turn it off? Well, let me turn it on and show you. I'm going to just turn it on, hit save and stay, go back to preview event. This is the welcome page. It only has the function of having two buttons, a new registration button and a modify registration button. And I could put text here if I want this to be a landing page. What we found is users seem to be confused when they landed on this page. Are they a new registration or are they a modify registration? Even if it's the first time they landed here, they just seem to be confused. So to eliminate that friction point, we decided just to turn that page off and have them go right to the new registration page where there's actually something to do. It just seemed to make more sense since people would probably be coming from an email or from a web page. They already know they want to register. So let's just eliminate that. Again, you might have some older events that have this turned on, or maybe you do want it. That lets you make that choice. But in our templates, we have it disabled. Just removes one extra step for the registrants. Okay. Some of these other ones. Well, and look at here. Remove the new registration, modify buttons from the welcome page. Well, then what's the point of the welcome page if there are no buttons there? So some of you like back buttons. There's a way to turn that on here on advanced settings. What else is here? So hide attendee category from registrants on the new registration page. Why do we have that turned on? Well, if you only have one category, it makes sense to leave this on. Otherwise, it would show up at the bottom of the page, even if there's just one. And it's like, that's just not unnecessary information. If you have many categories, you want people to choose from them, this does not interfere with that. When you have more than one category programmed and it's publicly visible, you're golden. It will still show up on the new registration page. Another feature down here I want to mention is this, what we call URL masking. If you've clicked the big blue button, first of all, shame on you. Or if you have a very old event, you might have a event URL that looks like this, okay? eventcloud.com. We have a feature available that puts an ASU branded domain name in place of the event cloud. This is the Stova version, and you can turn it on if it's not by going to advanced settings, general settings, coming down here and selecting that. Again, by default, it's turned on, but I just want to give you that that option. And there it is, all back to what it was. Okay. I talked about it. Was it day one? Day two. That you can customize this last bit for a short link. By default, you get the event number there, but you can customize that further by going to Event Info Basic Details and changing this part of the event URL and that will add a short link to the back. Now again, the link is not so important usually because you're putting it behind a button on an email or on a web page. However, when I click that, I am seeing that name on the web page's URL list here. That's what I do want to see. I do want people to see an ASU domain name when they land there so they know they're in the right spot. All right, what else we got down here? The allow registrants to resume incomplete registration. Now what this feature does, in case you didn't know, so people have 30 minutes to complete a registration form in Stova. There's no way to change that time. If they leave their browser open without completing, or for some reason it takes longer than 30 minutes for them to complete, they will get an incomplete email. And inside it will say, sorry, you seem to have forgotten to complete, and click this button to return to your registration. If they're on the same computer where they were making their registration, same IP address, they click that button, they'll be taken back and can pick up where they left off. Okay. If, however, they've gone to a different computer, then they've got to start all over again. So keep that 30-minute limit in mind when you're designing your registration forms, because you need to do it within that window. Usually it hasn't been a problem. Okay. This disable user agent, which is turned on, so the user agent is that pre-populating that your browser does when you see forms, if you've enabled that or left it on by default. This feature just prevents that, so that they have to fill out the fields, or Stova will do the pre-populating for us. Another feature I just want to bring your attention to is if you are using the check-in features of Stova and you're doing a multi-day event, you might want to turn on the enable multi-day check-in if you're checking people in every day. Okay, this will collect that information day by day and just basically starts fresh at the beginning of each day. In fact, I'll turn that on for my event. Lovely. So those are the big ones to bring to your attention under general settings. Now let's move on to language and wording. So you can enable translations of the Stova registration sites here under language settings. You can enable any of these. In fact, let's do one to show you. Lovely. And I'll hit save and stay. Okay. And now when I go to my event, your registrants will see this option of changing it to a different language. Okay, kind of cool. So that is language settings. Connected to that is customizing standard system text. So you can change any of the system level terms throughout the system. So maybe you're not doing a registration site for an event where the term is attendees. Maybe it's another term you want to use and you want to replace the word attendee with guest or whatever for your audience. This is where I'm going to fix that ID code problem that drives me batty. There are a lot of terms in the system. The easiest way to find them is to type in the term you're looking for here under the search text, and it will filter the list. So I'm looking for ID code. There's only one, thank you. It's also showing me where in the system that term shows up. In this case, it only shows up on your registration page, but it's another way of confirming I'm finding the right term. And to edit this, I'm going to click the edit button next to that. And I'm going to change ID code to discount code. Lovely. Now, something else has happened here. As soon as I activated the Spanish language or another language, I get an additional field here. If I hadn't done it, I'd see English translation only, right? So why is it showing me this? Well, if I'm changing this term here, do I want to change that term in another language? I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what the proper Spanish term for a discount code would be. And I'm not going to guess, but it gives me that ability. Fantastic. I'm just going to hit save. And now it's showing me by turning red here that, okay, you've changed something from the system defaults. It's also going to show this whole term has been changed here by just changing it red. And you see some other options here when you're in the language editor. Yes, you can just blank out that value completely. If there's some term you just don't want to see, you don't need it, you can come into it here and just blank it out by checking that. Or if you need to take something back to its system defaults, you can click this link to set the defaults. Okay, so I'm going to change, I'm going to just save my changes. Let's go take a look at that now. All right, now I'm seeing discount code, which is what I like. I still don't like I can't boldface that, but what are you going to do? As I said, you can do almost every term in the system. You can change it. One term you cannot change, very frustrating that you can't, is quick pay. That's just one term that I cannot change to say credit card or anything else. You could also look at what's available just by sorting by what pages they're on. Where are those terms you're trying to change showing, and if you just want to see what the translations are. Okay, so that's customizing the text and terms. Next is the preload data. Yeah, we have actually turned this off. So it used to be, we've turned this off in the new templates because we thought things were getting out of hand, frankly. But if you want to, you can enable this feature, and what it will do is if the registrant has submitted a registration for any event at ASU, it will pre-populate their fields based on the email address they provide on the new registration page. So that would be this feature here, preload from previous registrations. You may have this turned on if you're using an older template. It used to be turned on by default, but we just, again, thought it was causing more harm than good. Why not start fresh every time someone registers to get the accurate data? But it still has features you might want to use. You can preload information from mailing lists. So you're sending out that invitation, it has all the data you want to use. You can designate that mailing list, and it will pre-populate from that. We do not use the SAML SSO, unfortunately. This will not work with Salesforce. We do have templates that work with Salesforce, integrate with Salesforce. For more information on that, see our support pages or send us an email. We'll talk to you about them. We basically have some Salesforce templates where information entered into the Stova registration will be transferred to Salesforce after a little programming. So that's how that works. But that's preload data. Again, I'm showing you because it might be activated on your sites. If you do not want it activated, just go back here to click do not preload data at all, hit save and stay. You're good. Okay. Actually, this I wasn't going to cover this originally, but we've seen some chatter on support lines where it might be useful. So for some folks, is how can I restrict access to my registration site? I've got people coming in. I don't want people to come in who are not invited, or somehow want to restrict that. That would be the pre-approved data tab. Couple different ways that you can restrict access. I'm going to skip first to the bottom. If you want to restrict by the domains of the email addresses that people can use, you can do that by entering the domains here. So if you just want ASU people, add the ASU domain. If what I would not add here is Gmail, because that's just too many addresses, and I don't think it would work as a good filter. But say you have corporate sponsors or partners that have their own domains, you could enter them here and require people to have that kind of email address domain to get in to the registration site. Okay. If you want to be even more restrictive, you could come up to the pre-approved data section here and enter the email addresses of people that are pre-approved for a particular category. Basically, a copy and paste from a spreadsheet would work, but you would copy that data, go into manage pre-approved data, and then you would paste that information here. And the email address would need to match what you have on record. So another way to restrict access based on the category level. Okay? All right. Some other things I just want to point out here. So there are a couple approval processes. So if you're in a summer camp situation where you want to be able to register and provide you information, but they don't get added to the program until they've been looked at, their applications have been looked at by a team. There are some features here. I'm not going to demo these because they're a little involved, but they're basically three. There's the approval process here for standard approval. Yeah, this is one of those unhelpful tooltips that you sometimes run into in Stova. Thanks very much. You know, I did a user group demo of this. If you're interested in these features, I'd be happy to share the link with you to that. It's posted on YouTube, and I can give you the direct link to that section. Versus management approval, again, you have a team of people who need to look at it before it's approved. These standard and management means it's internal. Somebody has access to this registration site in order to review and approve. The third way is the external review process. So if you have people who are outside ASU, even outside your department, and you want to give them access to review, that would be the external review feature, where you program the reviewers and their email addresses, and you would then provide them with a link here where they can log in and see the applications or the submissions, and then fill out a review with whatever questions you want to ask. Right? Do you want to have them give a star, a rating? Do you want them to answer some questions about should they be approved or not, etc.? Okay. Oh, and this is where you develop the ratings that can be showing up on that review. Okay. Again, not going to demo them. I'm just pointing out these features. And actually, that brings us to the end of my demonstration. I have gotten through everything on my outline here. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch base, since I seem to have the time. Nothing's coming to me. So I am going to let's open this up for your questions. Do you have any questions about what we've shown here today, about fees and payments, about the look and feel of the website, any of these advanced settings that I've showed you? If that's the questions I'll answer first. If not, do you have any questions about Stova from the last couple master classes, or do you have a use case and you just don't know how to solve it? We can open it up. Looks like we have 20 minutes left in our allotted time. The other thing that comes to me is that there is one other way to limit access to sites, but I don't think I want to show you that. It's under attendee info for the field itself. You can put pre-approved data there as well, especially in the email address field. There's a way. If you want to know more about that, I would suggest reaching out to us. Laura, Marissa, did you see anything that I missed or think I need to spend some more time on?
No, as usual, I think you covered everything really well.
Okay. All right. Well, I know what happens is that after you leave a webinar, then you think of the questions or the use cases. So uh, if that happens to you, feel free to reach out to us. You can just post your question on the ASU Slack channel for Stova and let the hive mind of other users help solve those problems or tell them how they solve those problems. You can check out our website, our support site, stova.asu.edu. Just click on the sign in link to get to the good stuff, how to articles, videos, and so forth. Send us an email, stova@asu.edu. And we're happy to schedule some time for either consultations or office hours to deal with your specific issues or questions. And then just to give sort of a shameless plug to the next week, we'll be doing Event Builder Part 4, where we'll deal with event emails, that system, and also what do we mean by final prep, what do we mean by testing and going live. That's next week, same bat time, same bat channel. But we're also offering other webinars throughout the semester. We are offering the Stova Essentials classes. If you have someone who needs a Stova refresher or they're new to your team and need to get up to speed, have them check out Stova Essentials. We're also doing webinars on the Stova website builder. We're also doing a masterclass on the marketing module. Two other masterclasses from that is called Event Administrator, where we talk about all the reporting features and how to manage attendees and attendee profiles. And the Event Manager will be talking about the virtual features of the registration module, how to use the check-in features, what the check-in features are and how to use them, and also how to use the badging system built into registration. So that's all coming in the future weeks on our webinars. Just go back to the same webinar page that you've registered for if you have not signed up for those. And not seeing any questions in the chat, not seeing any hands here. Hopefully you have found this useful. I'm going to be able to give you 15 minutes back to your day. So hope to see you next time here at Stova Masterclass.